From the Mesilla Valley and Las Cruces to El Paso and the borderland, this is ABC 7 at 10.
We begin with extra perspective and a follow-up to news ABC 7 reported a few days ago. Immigration authorities released more than 100 migrants who tested positive for COVID-19 into the public in Brownsville, Texas. El Paso officials say that is not happening here, and here's why. Customs and Border Protection data shows there is a higher influx of migrants in the Rio Grande Valley sector, which is shaded over here, compared to, and that's also where Brownsville is located, compared to here in El Paso. Meanwhile, here is how both sectors compared. Now, as you can see, CBP encountered more than 17,000 migrants each month since October in the Rio Grande Valley. The numbers have been lower, are much lower in El Paso, closer to 10,000 each month since October. Now, these are not all asylum seekers. A CBP official told us the actual percentage is less than 20%. But the fact is that the Rio Grande Valley is dealing with higher numbers of people.
Now, we're going to go step by step explaining what happens to these migrants when they're apprehended at the border. ABC 7 learned Border Patrol will first do a health screening, but they're not tested for COVID-19. They check their temperature and ask the migrants questions to see if they've potentially been infected. If it's an individual, Border Patrol determines if they can expel them from the U.S. Now, if it's a family, Border Patrol does not have the authority to expel entire families. If the migrants are not expelled, Border Patrol asks Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, if they have space in detention facilities. We learned ICE may have space for individuals, but not for families.
And that's when ICE then contacts non-government organizations or NGOs like El Paso's Annunciation House, which is a shelter. And ABC 7 toured one of those facilities last week. This is where migrants end up after they're released by immigration authorities. The Annunciation House director told ABC 7 every single migrant they receive is tested for COVID-19. And here's what the city's Office of Emergency Management says happens if a migrant is positive.
If there's a positive case that comes out, that results out of those rapid tests, and if the shelter does not have space, then we utilize our isolation and quarantine hotels for those vulnerable populations. And at this point, 0 positive cases have been identified through the rapid test that we provided for our NGOs thus far.
However, migrants are not forced to stay in those hotels. They're not legally detained. They were released on personal recognizance. It is believed migrants who tested positive in Brownsville were permitted to leave after being released on their own recognizance.
Governor Greg Abbott tweeted earlier this week, quote, "The Biden administration is recklessly releasing hundreds of illegal immigrants who have COVID into Texas communities." ABC 7 spoke with El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, and she had this to say.
So this idea that Governor Abbott is trying to project, and other people, frankly, that are trying to project that, you know, there's significant numbers of migrants entering, it's not happening. Now, there are a lot of arrivals, but many of them are being expelled under Title 42.
So we want to make it clear, these migrants we've been discussing are not the ones under Migrant Protection Protocols, or MPP. Those are asylum seekers who are forced to stay in Mexico while they wait for their U.S. court hearing. Migrants under MPP are tested for COVID in Mexico and only allowed into the U.S. if they test negative.
Now, we know this is a lot of information, but because this is an evolving immigration situation, we want to make sure we stay ahead of the story as it continues to develop. So stay with ABC 7 for updates on air and online at kvia.com.